Ricardo Alberto, Brian Adams, Nana Adjei, Joe Alexander Sr., Ernest S. Bull, Benjamin Baker, Brian Baker, Stephen Baker, Patrick Ballard, Robert Banks, Richard Bay Newell, John Barker, Robert Barlow Jr., Edward Beck, John Becker, Timothy Bellin, Charles Berry, Ezekiel Bibby, Montrese Blunt, James Boatman, Gerald Buheeler, Anthony Borden, David Butcher, Christopher Bowen, Robert Bowman Sr., Jeanette Barden Boyd, Dennis Brough, Adam Brimhall, Brian Brooker, Joseph Brooks, Robert Brown, Frank Buck, Stephen Berg, Roy Burke, Eugene Butts, Robert Butts, Moises Cabrera, Renee Calahea, Bernard Cameron, Eric Cameron, Eric Carter, Miguel Cendejas, Lisa Chambers, Scott Chapman, George Chick, Clyde Clark, Christopher Clary, Dwayne Clement, Timothy Clymer, Alfred Cohen, William Colwell, Lynn Compton, Kimberly Kahn, Charmaine Conwell, Doreen Cook, Brenda Kramer, William Kramer, James Cully, Derek Dade, Jacoby Daniels, James Daniels, Oscar Davis, Nathan Delaney, Sergio DeMarcus, Dennis Yoki, Daniel D'Souza, Robert Dobson, Norval Donica, Scott Dorman, Kevin Doyle, Richard Dreyer, Arthur Duda, Betsy Eaton, Walter Eaton, Brian Esri, Cheyenne Evans, Ray Exum, Michael Farley, Steve Fall, Earl Flegler, Jeffrey Fry, William Folkman, Jerry Gramble Jr., Douglas Gardner, Ezekiel Gary, Edmund Gibbons, Theodore Gilliam, Johnny Golden, Eric Castro Grandos, Buddy Gray, Daniel Green, Leon Green Jr., George Griffith, Tefera Grinley, Eric Guerrero, Bassam Hamdan, Rocky Hankins, David Hanlon, Angela Hardy, Raymond Hart, Clarence Hartsock, Chad Hatfield, Rusty Henderson, Terry Henderson, David Herner, Jesus Herrera, Robert Hess, Gary Higgins, James Hoffmeyer Jr., Samuel Honeycutt, Herbert Hopkins, Scott Huff, Justin Humiston, Joseph Insara, Edisira Jacinto, Richard Jett, Eric Johnson, William Johnson, Robert Jones, William Jones, Debu Kabingle, Jeremy Karpiak, Ronald Kelly Jr., Robert Kinney, Scott Keig, Sergei Karchenko, Joseph King, Michael Kinnaman, Blake Kohler, Corliss Kronwitter, Anthony Lamar, Anita Lambert, Samuel Lancaster, Conchetta LaPlante, Edward LaPlante, Donald Ledgewood, Bernard Lee, Howard Leffler, Kendall Linderman, Arthur Lewis, Kevin Lewis, Alicia Lozano, Frank Lozano, Julian Lynch, Michael Lyon, Peter Lyons, Angelo Mayo, Rosalio Matuta, Mark Mayfield, Kevin McAllister, Nicholas McCabe, Sanford McCaskill, Stephen McLeod, Rodney McLeod, Roy McGuire, Jack McKeon, Gregory McKnight, Eklilu McHerina, Mark Messina, David Metzger, Roderick Mitchell, Robert Montgomery, Luis Morales, Dale Morgan, Ronald Mullins, Sean Mulvey, Rick Monday, Charles Murray, Demon Murray, Christopher Nevels, Shelman Newsom, Adam Nichols, James Norris, James Novales, Daniel Obsfield, Christopher Palercio, Anthony Parker, William Parkman, Stephen Perry, Donald Partney, Stuart Patrick, Vernon Patterson, Donald Pearman, Randy Pease, Franklin Pena, Robert Pence, Francisco Perez, James Phillips, Cedric Pollard, Harold Proctor, Alexander Reichenbach, Andres Rokina, Colleen Reynolds, John Reynolds, Alan Riggins Jr., Mark Rivera, Darren Robinson, Angela Rocky, Curtis Rogan, David Rohr, David Romig, Robert Rosales, Yar Ruiz, Gustavo Salazar, Charles Sargent, Rick Saunders, John Schaefer, Candy Shuey, Robert Shuey, Ralph Scott Jr., Ronald Scranton, Jorge Serrano, William Shepard, Richard Sykes, Ulrich Scala, Andy Scoween, Bobby Smith, Carrie Ann Smith, Matthew Smith, Paula Smith, Rodney Smith, Gary Sorrell, Kevin Stevens, Dennis Story, Brian Struberg, John Strum, Gary Terhune, Alan Thompson, Robert Triplett, Jeffrey Tyson, John Ever Uba, Joseph Uribe, Ernest Vaughn, Pete Villarimo, Anthony Walker, Frank Walters III, Anton Webster, Quentin Webster, Larry Weckerlin, Robert Weekly, Christopher Weissman, Christopher Welch, Christopher Weskarin, Joel White, John White, Gerald Wiggin, David Williams, Kelvin Williams, Marion Williams, Michelle Wilson, Stephen Winland, David Wireman, Robert Woody, Ty Wooward, James Wright, Herbert Egan Wire, and Mark Yeager. Sharon Bailey, Benjamin Barrett, John Becker, Victor Blackburn, Dan Bradford, Roderick Brown, Irvin Carter, Michael Kramer, Carol Dowd, Michael Dowd, Christopher Ewing, Stephen Gade, Irvin Jackson, Greg Jacobs, Jeffrey Johnson, Angela Justice, Susan Kleinhampel, Brett Lawley, Eric Leopold, Arthur Lewis, Norman Liddell Jr., Philip Matchett, Anthony McNabb, Dale Morgan, Charles Norwood, Timothy O'Connor, Kenneth Pact Sr., Anthony Parker, Cesar Pinos, William Podesta, Troy Potts, Matthew Puccio, Howard Purcell, Dilip Ramnanan, Francisco Rocho Jr., Bennett Smith, Howard Smith, Gerald Thomas, Ricardo Torres, Robert Vandenberg, Victor Vega Sr., and Rick Zayas.